Okay, good evening everyone and welcome to Denby Dale Amateur Radio Club. Great to see club members and a couple of our supporters who are members who have joined the meeting tonight. Everyone's always welcome to attend any of our meetings. As Alan, who's our speaker tonight, G8YKV, hasn't quite spotted yet, but our club managed to recruit a number of people from different parts of the globe during our regular online meetings, which span back to April of 2020. We've been running them pretty well continuously since then, with a couple of short breaks over the two summers of 2020 and 21. But we've managed to recruit fellow amateurs, Alan, from South Africa, from the United States, from Belgium, from Germany, and from one or two other parts of the UK, who have enjoyed our meeting so much they've even become members of Denby Dale Radio Club. So 25% of our membership now is outside of Yorkshire and the environments of Denby Dale, but they've added considerably to our meetings, as you'll discover in your talk tonight. So we've got a talk that already one club member, I'm not going to say who it was, already criticised me, saying it looks interesting, Nick, but I'm not sure why Denby Dale is promoting fox hunting. Do we really support fox hunting? And I said, well, obviously we don't. And it's about, and he was being tongue in cheek with me, so doesn't need to own up now. I said, you know, it is actually about someone being a fox and hiding themselves away somewhere, and the hounds chasing them. And I came across, Alan, your little guide, beginner's guide to fox hunting, and your own club website down in Mid Sussex, and thought this would make a great talk online. So, Alan, if you don't mind me saying, I think this is your first online meeting on Zoom, so you're very welcome. We know your presentation works because you and I had a quick look the other day, so you're very welcome. I'm going to hand the microphone over to you, Alan, and let you fire it up.
Right, thank you, Nick. And yes, I have noticed there's one or two strange calls that appeared, but I'm not showing everybody. So yeah, it's obviously some people from foreign parts around. Well, welcome to everybody. Right, let's see what we can do. Right, let's just get that running. Share screen, that's what I want. That's it. Right, okay. Now, I didn't want that, I wanted that. That's it. Right, now, very good evening to everybody. As you can see, yes, it is fox hunting, but not as you know it. And as the previous government have banned it, we can't go down that route. Anyway, here we go. Who am I? Right, well, my name's Alan Cragg. I've been licensed since 1980. My call sign, as Nick has told you, is G8YKV. I'm a member of the Mid Sussex Amateur Radio Society, which is located in Burgess Hill, which is some 12 miles north of Brighton, and some 14 or whatever it is, and somebody's hidden it behind the number of. Oh, come back. Nick told you I'm not used to this. About 15 miles south of Crawley. Mars got me interested in fox hunting, and I've forgotten how many I've taken part in now. It's a good few, 50 or so over the years, I should imagine. Some have been as a fox, and many have been part of the team of hounds. The club, under normal circumstances, tries to have at least 2 or 3 per year, but things have been not quite standard, have they? We've managed to get 2 in since lockdown, both with myself and my partner being the foxes. And for your interest, Nick, I have found those photographs. They'll appear later. Right, now, how do you go fox hunting? Well, you can either do it with a vehicle, that's being all the hounds in vehicles going to find the fox, or as we do sometimes, a more local one with a walking one around the Burgess Hill. That's works quite well, but people do get strange looks when you're wandering around the streets with this antenna in sort of waving it around. But there you go. An area needs to be set for the fox to find its a lair within, and we normally use the Ordnance Survey 150,000 map 198, which gives us an area from Brighton in the south to Crawley in the north, Slimfold in the west, and Uckfield in the east, with the proviso that the fox does not go over the South Downs. Obviously, well, the South Downs, it's up a bit like your hills, it's up one side and down the other, and if you go down the other side, that's it, goodbye fox, we'll never find him. It gives us a pretty good area to hunt in. Your topography may cause a bit of a problem in that one, but it would be some interesting territory to hunt in. Obviously, you'll need a willing member to be the fox, and some members to be hounds. Normally, it's a good idea to have a team of two for being a hounds. It's a bit of fun and games, nipping out of a car with an aerial, and it's easier if the passenger does that while the driver stays put, and probably monitoring the radio at the same time. You need to set a starting point for the hounds, and then the fox will need to check that his transmissions will reach the start point. A transmission schedule also needs to be arranged, which is something along the lines of first transmission of 2 minutes duration, and then 1 minute from then on every 15 minutes. This can be changed depending on the location, time of year, especially if you're doing an evening one. We come the sort of later part of the summer, we tend to drop it down to 10 minutes every 10 minutes, otherwise the darkness closes in too much. Obviously, the fox will need a means of transmitting mobile or handheld, obviously on simplex. We use 2 meters, but there's no reason why you can't use any of the other bands, again, because of your topography. And the hounds also need a means of receiving the signal with a directional antenna. And finally, most importantly, a suitable pub to retire to after the fox has been found, or the fox has been so well hidden that hounds have given up. Right, that's the map that we use. Let's get a Brighton down the bottom there, Crawley up the top, if you can see my cursor, and then Slimfold over there to the west of Horsham, and Uckfield over this side. So we've got a fair old area to cover. Right, what do you need to be a fox? It's obviously a suitable place to hide. It doesn't have to be fully camouflaged. Hiding in plain sight will do, as long as it's publicly accessible. We've used car parks. I've used a green lane, parked up in that, or a pub garden for a walking one. Anything like that will do, as long as I say it's publicly accessible. A radio, mobile or handheld, depending on distance, and suitable aerial Whipple beam, as long as you can get them distance from the start, and band and topography. Also, have someone hand out some sealed envelopes by prior arrangement. Normally one of the hounds does it, of your location and the pub at which you finish. Now, that location can be as a grid reference or as a physical such and such road, or however you want to do it, in case the hounds cannot find the scent or give up, that is. And when the hound gets to the fox, you normally ask for the envelopes, and if they've been opened, well, that's it, the hound has failed. But if it hasn't been opened, then it may very well be the winner. And also, it's also useful to have some clues written down of the area that you're hidden in, to read out for the later transmissions, to help the hounds find you. Normally we give it an hour, and then we start handing out subtle clues as to where we might be located. In earlier transmissions, you can just waffle about what you see, read a passage from a newspaper or a book, or just to fill in the transmission slot. Right, to be the hounds, means of transport, obviously, now whether that's by four wheels, two wheels or Shanks's pony, depends on what you're doing. A receiver with a signal strength indicator, the usual bar graph is fine. Gone are the times when you used to have an S meter on the old radios. But normally, if you have one with a bar graph, then that is quite sufficient. A directional antenna, as you'll see in a bit, I normally use a 3LE beam. An optional attenuator as well is also useful. Map of the area, some pencils and ruler, and an optional compass, depends on how good your sense of direction is. Right, this is what I normally use. The one on the left is with what I started off with. I have done it with a 5LE, but it gets a bit cumbersome. And just that's a handheld antenna, a handheld radio. I do sometimes use the one in the vehicle, and then have my other half look at the signal strength. But it does get useful when you have to leave the vehicle. One on the right has got the attenuator attached. And going over to the attenuator, it's very useful reducing receive signal when you get near the fox's lair. This one's a commercial one, but there's nothing to stop you making one, as one of our club members has done, as long as you get some high accuracy resistors. That one gives you a maximum 100 dB, but I've never ever used more than about 30. And it's a personal preference as to which end of the aerial cable you insert it. You'll find at the end there's a couple of photographs, and one of them shows one of the club chairman with it attached to physically attached to his aerial. If you've got something, if you're running it from the car, it's probably easier to have it by the radio, but otherwise, you know, it's personal preference. Right, how do we go and plot Fox's lair? As I said in the beginning, Mars meeting Bridgesill at Cypress Road, and behind it is a large public car park, which we tend to use as a starting point. So that's an enlarged map of Bridgesill, and lo and behold, there's an arrow, and there's that's where we are, right in the centre. So what we normally do, starting at Cypress Hall car park, we take a reading of the transmitted signal, and I tend to walk around in a circle, noting what the received signal strength is. And then when you think you've got the strongest signal, swing it back 180 degrees and make sure you're not picking up off the back of the beam. And yes, it has been done. I then plot this line on the map, or if you prefer photocopies stuck together, so if you don't want to mark your map. And I know these days there are plastic covered maps these days, which you can use China graph pencils on and wipe off afterwards. Right, now, say for instance, you take a reading from our start point, and it goes off in a northeasterly direction, which is what that's showing. So you mark that on the map, and then we move our position to take a next reading. Now, Cookfield's up sort of northwest, as it says on the map here, if you go with north being the top of the map. So if we go up there and we then proceed to listen for the next transmission, it may not be the next one, it may be the one after. Just depends how long it takes you to get to the next point. And this is where local knowledge comes in useful, because I happen to know there's a convenient car park up there. It's on fairly high bit of ground that's nice and open. So then you take a reading, put another line on the map, like that one. And then you do the same again, and you find somewhere else, and there's another car park down there in North Chailey, and you mark another one. So you end up ideally with a nice triangle. Doesn't always work because of reflections, but there we go. That's an enlarged map of that. So then I will come into that sort of area and repeat the procedure. So then the red lines are the new sort of readings, because as you can see, I've taken one from the road where just where above the word Hayward Heath and down, one from the car park just underneath the black line, and another one from another convenient place on the road, and it turns out to be slap bang in the middle of there. Now, if you're very observant, you can see it says public house, and that's where he will be. Fox found in the car park. This is an ideal scenario, but the idea is the same for any fox hunt. Local knowledge can be king, but you can be thrown by reflections. That's basically the way to do it. There are other methods of going hunting foxes. The photocopy was a direction finding kit made way back in 1996 by Badger Boards, which basically ended up with a handle with a butterfly loop on it, which had some sort of switching circuitry in it, which switched between the two antennas, and I'm told it worked quite well, and you sort of twist it round and nulled out the noise from the switching, and that was the direction. But the only problem is it could be forward or it could be backwards, so you just have to hold it up against yourself to blank it out a bit from behind you, just to be doubly certain. All is not lost. I found another one. It's the Norfolk Amateur Radio Club have produced a very similar bit of kit, and I think it was based on this with a few improvements. And I have the websites down there for you, and I have printed out the information, and it looks like it could be quite a good one to build. It doesn't have the butterflies. It has basically a pair of dipoles on each end of a pole. So you have basically, talking of 405 antennas and things, like a H antenna, but much smaller, of course, built to the whatever frequency you're using. And obviously, Nick, this will be put out on the website so people can pick those websites up. The first one gives you a bit of insight, and the second one actually tells you how to build it. Now, there is another way of doing it, and that is called the Doppler direction finding. Now, this basically is the same methods as the police use when somebody nicks a vehicle and it's got a tracker on it. Same thing, if you see the motor with police cars around with 4 aerials on it, they've got tracker on that, the receiver, and this basically runs the same way. This one's made by Dayton. Whether it's still made, I don't know. I still have it. I don't use it. I'll tell you why in a minute. But basically, it's a display unit, and you need a receiver and a speaker, which you can just see the bottom of it there, to go in the vehicle. And then on the top of the vehicle is a magnetic box with four connectors, which you put 4 aerials onto, and they are technically cut for the frequency in use. Although there's no reason why you can't use smaller ones. They would still work. Probably won't receive quite as well, but if you're doing close-up work, not a problem. And then what happens is you get, right, let's go over to the complete one. You see I've got a receiver now on there, and what happens is that you get a received signal, and the circular dial shows up what direction it is, but it's useful to have another receiver because the switching is about 100 kilohertz switching, and it tends to distort the received signal, and it's always useful to actually listen to what's being said as well as that. So once a receiver and another one on a separate aerial. The only problem is the system needed careful setting up, but was very good. It says there, so good, Doppler equipment was effectively banned by Mars because I and 1 or 2 others who used the other one that was around kept winning. This was used by a company I work for, or I still technically work for them, but as a different as a contractor. They have a very big PMR network, and we used to use it for finding vehicles that had their radios on permanent transmit. Once you know where the what base station it's on, you go to the area and just drive around till you find it. As it says there, the beauty of the system is that you do not have to stop to hear transmissions. You just keep going. As I say, it has been known for people to not set it up right, and they go off in 180 degrees out to what the correct signal is. So they do take quite a bit of setting up, but when they work, they work. Right. Now onto a few tiles. As we talked about Doppler, the Doppler kit. I was on one fox hunt with a friend of mine, and the signals took us out to the west of Burgess Hill. And as we were travelling along one of the main roads, the signal indication showed that it was beginning to go south of us. So at the next major junction, we turned south and took off down this road. This was a few years ago, and I was a little younger and a little more quick at driving. We flew down the road in the company car, and we're just coming up to this hamlet where I knew there was a car park on the right, tucked behind some trees. And just as we were coming past, the fox chose that moment to start transmitting. And as we went past, the indicator went from straight ahead right round to straight behind us. So that was brakes, turned into the second entrance of the car park, and hiding behind there was the fox, or the foxes, should I say, and a husband and wife team. Then we had to wait another half an hour for the next set of hounds to arrive. That's why it's so good, but it has been known that hounds will go off at 180 degrees to the direction of the setup. But there we go, that's what happens. Right, another little tile, aerial beam set up. We negotiated ourselves to the north of the area, to this little village with a green, nice cricket pitch in the middle of the village green, surrounded by roads. And we pulled up, and we knew he was here somewhere because the signal was so strong, and I didn't have the attenuator, so I was literally wandering around with a handheld with no aerial fitted, and we could hear him, or we knew he was here somewhere up on a tree line, but we couldn't find him until he started speaking into his microphone. He was so well camouflaged, all you could see with his ears, with his eyes, and even camouflaged the aerial pole. So, but he was been standing in this hedge line for about an hour before anybody found him. So there you go. And recently, I was a fox and found myself in a lair in plain sight in a cul-de-sac. I was actually parked just on the drive of a friend's house. Now, I watched as several hounds drove straight past the end of the cul-de-sac without even bothering to come in. All I can say is the hounds are out of training, as this was the first fox hunt since lockdown. So now, as promised, Nick, I think you've seen this one before, but this is us at the pub just down the road from where the hounds couldn't find me, with my partner and a couple of fellow amateurs, and another couple of hounds on the right, and Russell with his HB9CV, and as you can see, got a handheld with an attenuator all attached to a board, and even he couldn't find me doing that. So there we go. That's what happens. But I don't know why they couldn't find me, because I was sitting there in the van. I just watched them go straight past the end of the road. But I can only assume they were out of condition, not used to it. Right. That, as I say, is any questions. Whoops. So I'll get rid of that bit. And
brilliant. Thank you, Alan.
That's all right. No problem.
Okay. Well, Alan, that was great fun. And I know already, because one or two people commented in the chat, you might not have seen, Alan, about there had to be a pub involved.
Oh, yeah. Well, you always got to have a pub.
Okay. Who's got a question or comment to put to Alan? Who wants to go first? Yes, Roger.
Hi, Alan. Interesting. Thank you.
That's
I
right.
wonder what the protocol is on giving out false clues. Is that considered bad practice, or is that fair game?
We don't normally do it, because we normally wait quite a while before we start giving the clues out. Sometimes it's difficult enough to try and find the furry object, i.e. the fox, so we don't tend to do it.
I just wondered whether it was, considered by members to be bad practice. And,
yeah, well, I would think if we started doing it, yes, I think you'd get balled out of court on that one.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Anyone else with a question to Alan? Gerald.
Yeah, hi there. Thank you for that. It's fascinating. Took mine back with Alpha. My first experience was as a fox for on top band, 160 meters.
Oh, yes.
We used to chase around on those. And we did have a couple in Denbydale from time to time. And we've had some but other ones. I like 77s because the aerials are so much smaller. And 77s is a good one to hunt on. But also you do get benefits of reflections as well. So if you hide somewhere near to a large metal container wagon or something like that, this could be beautiful for putting the hounds off. Back to you.
Yes, well, yeah, just remind me of one. I might as well say I work for the electricity board down here in Sussex, and then we got a large 400 kV substation not that far away. And I thought, I know where I can go and park. So I went down and parked beside the switch house, but it's public accessible because the road comes and the barriers are further on. And for that one, we actually did a crossband with my colleague, so it was actually transmitting on 2 meters. But what I forgot to do was look up, because there's the 400 kV line straight above me, and where was I transmitting straight into? It was going down to Dungeness and goodness knows where to the west. So that can cause all sorts of problems as well. I did get sworn at for that one, I must admit.
Yeah, I think we get the idea, Alan, about why people were not too impressed.
Yeah.
Anyone else with a question or comment to Alan? When we were chatting a bit earlier before people came in the room, I was making the point that this was many years ago, this was a very big thing in amateur radio.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Most clubs ran these. There were regional and national competitions, but it seems to have kind of died a bit of a death as a bit of our hobby.
Yes, it has, hasn't it? I know there's been several bits in Ragcom about some bit about running around and finding all these low power transmitters, which isn't my idea. But yes, there used to be all sorts of competitions and things. Mid Sussex tend to do it, Horsham tend to do it around here. We don't have Brighton clubs gone by the board, and what was the other one that went? Eastbourne went. So yeah, the two of us tend to carry on doing some, but we tend to stick to 2 meters. But conditions and hills and things might, as I was saying to you earlier, Nick, that it might be better to try another band. Whether 70 would do with that, or whether 4 meters would do it, or 6 meters, or even 10 meters. But I think they started on 160 because cars that had radios in them had long waves. So there you got an instant radio receiver, as Den's just nodding there at what I was saying. But yeah, so it's you can use any of them. And I've just realised, hello Bob, M4XAT. I didn't realise you're there. Who's an honorary member at MSARS. So oh dear, that means I might be doing more of these. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Richard, you got your hand up.
Hello, sir. Yes. Do you ever swap polarization to fool people?
Yeah, we have done, and it does cause a bit of interest. And they think that all of a sudden they've got the signal first time round, and then you go and turn the aerial if you do have a beam for the Fox. Yeah, that does cause a bit of a problem. The other thing is that you can get we've had down around here a bit of ducting where it worked perfectly from Burdeshill down to where the Fox was, which is down near Lewis. But you got off that track, you couldn't hear them at all, and you had to get back on that track before you could hear them. So yes, it does cause a bit of a problem, but I think most of the time we tend to use a whip be it on the car or on a handheld. But yes, it would cause a bit of a problem, I must admit.
Oh, right, thank you. By the way, in the 80s, I used to be a member of the North Wakefield Radio Club, and we once had a fox hunt, and I put an 8-element J-beam on the roof of the Avenger.
Oh, God.
Hey, I tell you what,
yeah, a few strange looks.
Yeah, actually, it was brilliant. It had a T-bar to turn it.
Yeah,
I mean, obviously, because it wasn't too high up. I had one of these 2-inch bearings that you clamp on the 2-inch scaffold pole, the guy ropes to either side. So it had 2 roof racks, and then a scaffold pole between the rear and the front with a hole in it, 25 mil, same as the PU-12 masts, and then the scaffold pole. The funniest thing about it was we never won, but when you went around some council estates, number of people that just ran inside, you know, it was quite hilarious.
yeah.
Sometimes I thought, are they going to come and beat me up? Because everybody, I must admit, the people that aren't in the know must have thought I were a TV detective fan.
Yeah, that's what I was going around my mind, that that everyone would think about that. Don't see them so much these days because I think they're a bit more covert.
Well, I've got views on that.
Yeah.
The other thing is that my receiver in them days was a Liner 2.
All right. Yes, I vaguely remember the name.
Yeah. It was the one good thing that I did was the squelch knob on it. I modified it so it was an RF gain.
Right. Yes.
Control. It did help, but we never won.
No.
Yeah, Jeff from Belgium has just posted a couple of links on amateur radio direction finding in Belgium.
Yeah.
And I think amateur radio direction finding is a little bit in a more discrete area generally. It's more of a cross between, you know, fell running, direction finding, and orienteering, isn't it?
Yeah.
Whereas you're you know, chasing a fox in the way you've described it, Alan, is potentially over a much wider area that you do it over.
Yes. Well, can be up over about sort of 20 miles if the conditions are good.
Okay. Any other questions or comments to Alan?
What's the?
Yes, go on.
Yeah. What power limits do you use normally?
The only power limit we set is provided the fox can get to the starting point with his signal. So as low as possible, as for, you know, to be able to cover that distance. There's no set rules on that one. It's we have known some of the foxes to put the power up, make the first contact, then drop the power. So we haven't got any particular rules on that one. It's just personal preference, but we try to. Well, I always try to stay on the same power, but if you're in a bit of a dodgy place, then yeah, it probably pays to first couple of transmissions to be a higher power than anything else. But we don't have any set limits on what it's got to be.
Suppose shortly it'll have to be under 10 watts with his field strength measurements.
Well, it certainly would do once you get close to him, yes, or close to her, the fox. But if you're doing sort of 20 miles before you get to the fox, then you need a fair bit of power. But I think in those circumstances, the fox would turn his power down after two or three transmissions. I try and work it on 5, but it doesn't always work. Just depends on where you are.
Yeah, for those guys that have done it up here in Yorkshire, I guess that you'll probably have to follow Barry and Brian up some of the trig points and transmit from a trig point to have any hope of people around the area be able to find them, because you know our topography is such. When you and I were talking,
yes,
Alan, you know I live, you know, literally only 10 miles away from Huddersfield, and I can't hear virtually any of our members transmitting on 2 meters or 70 cents where I live, and you know I'm 670 feet above sea level. You'd think that would be a great takeoff point, but there's a lot more of this big stuff between us.
Yes, yeah, that's where it's going to be rather interesting and rather difficult to set something up, I would imagine, but it's worth a try.
Another point, Nick, is that the hillsides that are blocking you are also contain a lot of coal seams and iron ore, which means it absorbs a lot as well.
Yeah, we've got, you know, we obviously haven't got the coal pits anymore, Alan, but we do have a very, very extensive series of coal fields across Yorkshire, South Yorkshire in particular, and you know they are very large and very extensive.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Any other questions to Alan? Yes, Terry.
Yes, hello, and thank you, Alan. I have done some fox hunting, or ARDF as it's also known, but separately, of course, fox hunting I think is by car or by foot, but over a wider range. I did one of those, and yep, I can remember the squeal of brakes as you overshoot the pub car park. But I've also done the ARDF with people who enter contests internationally and represent the RSGP,
yes,
and that sort of thing. And that's all very low power and within a forest or a wooded area or similar. Just to say that I found both of them good fun, but physically I can't do the across the woodland anymore. And currently, there's been no interest in car fox hunting, which, to be fair, I've not even thought about it for however many decades. But just to say that both forms do exist, and both do exercise the spirit of adventure and the sense of humour.
Well, yeah, I can. Yes, certainly. You know, of course, the ARDS mostly on 80 meters, from what I can remember, but I haven't seen anything reported.
It's on both 2 and on 80. I have kit for both.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No,
oh, by the way, one other thing you mentioned, the Datong Doppler. Datong haven't been in the amateur radio field for years and years and years, and certainly they don't make an amateur version of that rather wonderful device.
No, they don't. Never have done. That was very much for commercial use, and
It used to be advertised on the amateur market, but
yes, yeah.
Then they went high cost, high professionally.
Yes. I did see. Can't recall it at the moment as to who does make a commercial professional one, but it's at silly money, not sort of the money you will want to spend. That one happens to be Freeman's because they closed the workshop down, so it was all going to go in the skip, except it didn't. So I acquired it, and there was another one around at one time, but I don't know where that one went. I've only got the one now, but I don't know whether it even still works. I haven't powered it up for a long time. So like a lot of the electronic gear, it's probably going to stick 2 fingers up at me if I try and power it up. So we'll have to just carefully wind some volts into it and see what happens. But as I say, can't use it any longer. They don't like it being used. It's too good.
Yeah, one answer is to have 2 prizes, one for people that are using that sort of equipment and one for people who haven't got that equipment.
Yeah, well, yes, but there's not enough of them out there in the club to warrant it. But I know what you mean. That will be the way out of it, definitely.
Interesting when you see how quickly they did arrive when you were using that method.
Yes, it's providing you set it up correctly, and the way that it actually says in the instructions is you set it up in the vehicle and have a very low power source and walk around the vehicle and watch the green circle of lights, and as long as it follows you, it's going the right way. But if you're in too much hurry and don't check it, because there's a little normal and inverted switch on it, and you get yourself confused as to which way around it's going, then you end up going the wrong way. But I know one of the areas where I used to work, they had one permanently in a van, and it was all permanently set up. And once it's set up, you don't have to worry about it. But it's because it's put away and brought out, you have to go through all the procedures setting it up every time. So it is a bit of a faff, but it does work well when it works.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for that. Right, anyone else with a final question to Alan before we give our thanks? Yeah, Henry's just made a comment in the chat that in car fox hunting, one of the ways to do it is to record the mileage at the beginning and end.
Yeah,
that's another way of
yeah, we do that for a treasure hunt as well. Start mileage, finish mileage, and those that have done the shortest distance, it goes all towards the score. But that's a different talk.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Well, look, Alan, can I thank you very much indeed. Can we show our appreciation to Alan in the normal way, everyone, for his talk tonight? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that was very, very enjoyable, Alan, and thanks for sparing the time to come and talk to us and making your first appearance on Zoom, as you said. We've got Bob here from New Jersey. He's going to pinch you to come and talk over in New Jersey at some time, I bet.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to tell Ken that Alan spoke here instead of at Mid Sussex. I believe that Mid Sussex is having one at exactly the same time. Isn't that right, Alan?
Yeah, they're on the usual Wednesday evening Zoom meeting. Yes. Yeah, that's true. So
Good seeing you, Alan.
Yeah, I'll get it in the neck from Ken.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Alan. I'm going to stop the recording. So thanks, everyone.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.